To replace the transformer, the first thing we need to do is power off the chair, then unplug it. Next, we need to open the levers on the inline connector and remove the wiring from both sides. If you're working on the chair that's connected to a kiosk system, remove the kiosk cable harness from the cable guide, as well as the cable from the main PCB. Next, we'll use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the 3 screws that secure the rear shroud to the chair. Then we can slide the shroud backward and then tip it over, resting it on the floor next to the chair. Okay, next we'll use the Phillips head screwdriver again to remove the 3 screws that secure the PCB cover. And we can remove that cover. You'll need to pull it firmly at the rear as there are tabs installed over slots that have a rather secure connection. Next, we can use a wire cutter to cut the 2 zip ties that secure the black, blue, and white cable bundles. And then we can follow those cables to disconnect the connectors from the main PCB and the footrest PCB. And finally, we can disconnect the connector from the power PCB. Okay, next we need to use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the cable guide that secures the cabling near the power PCB. And then we can remove the 4 screws that secure the transformer to the chair. Then we can remove the transformer from the chair. To install the new transformer, then we can place it into position, aligning the screw holes. And then we can replace the 4 screws to secure it to the chair. Next, we can reconnect the red cable to the power PCB and then seat that cable, taking up the slack between the transformer and the cable guide, seat that cable into the cable guide next to the black cable and replace the cable guide to secure it. Okay, now we're ready to connect the transformer connectors to the main PCB. And the footrest PCB, feeding that underneath the cable bundle that's secured with a zip tie. Okay, then we can replace the 2 zip ties to secure the blue, white, and black cables in the same 2 locations they were secured previously. And cut the excess zip tie. Okay, now we're ready to replace the PCB cover. Note the tabs in the rear of the PCB area. You need to install the slots on the PCB tray over those tabs and push down firmly to secure it. Use your hands to make sure that the slots are installed successfully over those tabs. The screw holes will then be aligned, and you can replace the 3 screws to secure the cover. Okay, next we need to remove the 9 screws that secure the plastic panel to the underside of the shroud. Then we can twist the ends of that remotely controlled system cable and feed it through the hole we drilled in the rear of the shroud. Next, we're going to install a zip tie temporarily on the casing, just on the outside of the shroud, just to keep that wiring from falling back into the shroud while we're reinstalling the shroud on the chair. Okay, then we can replace that black plastic panel and the 9 screws to secure it. Okay, then we can flip that shroud back over carefully into position, putting as little strain on that cable as possible, and slide it into position. Now it's important that the edges of the shroud are installed between the black plastic side panels and the guides. In this case, it is not, so you can see he had to move the shroud over to the outside of the guide, so it's installed between the guide and the side panel. Okay, once the shroud's installed properly, we can replace the 3 screws to secure it. Then we can use a wire cutter to cut that temporary zip tie carefully off of the cable. Twist the ends of each wire, and then we'll install those into the inline connector. If you're working on a chair connected to a kiosk system, it's important to install the positive wire on the right and the negative on the left, or the blue wire on the right and the green wire on the left. Once the wiring's inserted all the way, you can close the orange levers to secure it. If the chair is connected to a kiosk system, we can install that kiosk harness into the cable guide. And then regardless of which system it's connected to, we need to install the wiring into the other side of the inline connector. If it's attached to a kiosk system, the positive wire needs to be on the right and the negative on the left. Okay, then we can plug in the chair, power it on, and we're done.